In America, we are losing our freedoms, one by one. Clean air, the freedom to breathe air not polluted with toxins. Safety, the freedom to live without the fear of deadly guns. Women's autonomy, the freedom to control their own bodies. Voting, the freedom to participate in our democracy. We are losing America. The Clean Air Act of 1970 resulted in a major shift in the federal government's role in controlling air pollution. It authorized the development of comprehensive federal and state regulations to limit industrial and mobile emissions. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, administered and enforced these regulations. Congress amended the Act several times, expanding and modifying the EPA's authority. In 2022, the Supreme Court severely curtailed the EPA's ability to regulate the energy sector. Instead of employing broad powers, the EPA is now limited to small-scale measures, such as monitoring emissions controls at individual industrial sites. The objective of the Sullivan Act of 1911 was to curb gun violence in the state of New York, primarily through the establishment of a felony penalty for carrying a concealed weapon for self-defense without a permit. In 2022, the Supreme Court decided that the Sullivan Act of 1911 was unconstitutional. It found that an applicant seeking a concealed carry license should not be required to demonstrate a special need for self-defense. Justice Thomas wrote that this requirement prevented law-abiding citizens with ordinary self-defense needs from exercising their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms in public. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that unduly restrictive state regulations of abortion is unconstitutional. The decision stated that criminalizing abortion in most instances violated a woman's constitutional right of privacy, which the court found to be implicit in the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. In 1992, Justices O'Connor, Kennedy, and Souter wrote the opinion of the Supreme Court affirming the right to abortion. They wrote in part, overruling Roe's central holding would reach an unjustifiable result. Only the most convincing justification under accepted standards of precedent could suffice to demonstrate that a later decision overruling the first was anything but a surrender to political pressure. In 2022, the Supreme Court overruled Roe and Casey. Justice Alito wrote, "The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by a constitutional provision, including the one on which defenders of Roe and Casey now chiefly rely, the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment." The Voting Rights Act of 1965 empowered the federal government to take an active role in overseeing voter registration and electoral processes in states that had a documented history of voter suppression and intimidation. Following a formula, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Virginia were explicitly prohibited from making changes to voting procedures without pre-clearance approval of the federal government. In 1975, Alaska, Arizona, and Texas were added to this list. Congress reauthorized the act several times, including in 2006, when it was reauthorized for 25 years. In 2013, the Supreme Court held that Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act was unconstitutional. Its formula could no longer be used as a basis for subjecting states to preclearance by the federal government. The decision immediately opened the floodgates to laws restricting voting throughout the country. In 2021 alone, more than 400 voter suppression laws were introduced in 48 states. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.